In this episode, there's a variety of significant news. Completing it for the other, around the fourth story, it finally unveils the cause for redemption. Why did God embody the Virgin Mary as Jesus Christ on earth? We start with Nahed Ali. She indicated her admiration for Egypt, and her activities on October 7th were essential. It will be the same as Egypt and led it on October 6th. Sinai returned on October 7th. And the country around you, Abdullah Youssef wrote, "Don't ask me how they are the ones who say that. What are they saying? On October 6th we returned to Sinai. We were defeated and we will not celebrate. On October 7th we lost Gaza, but we won and we will celebrate." Let's go to Dr. Khaled Montaser and his exciting comments. Have you released this news by Dr. Ayman? He stated, "We are a people who refrain from eating until hunger strikes, and even then we do not overindulge." This is a saying and not an honorable hadith, and the messenger never said that. It was also published by Dr. Khaled Montaser, a famous doctor who appears on satellite channels, and he said that we are a people who do not eat until we are hungry, and if we eat we are not satisfied. He said that it is a prophetic rule. He tried to tell people that this is a scientific miracle. Dr. Khaled Montaser commented on this topic and wrote that there was no talk at all, but the doctor did not confirm to me that there is a scientific miracle between parentheses of a miracle. The miracle is in the talk that is not talk, but the Magjabs believe because they want to believe. And miracles merchants make a living because the customers are off tomorrow. Thinking. The question has been for a long time, and the scientific miraculous Funkush trading machine that insults both science and religion is working, and Muslims are rooting for miracles, and they are in a state of helplessness. Is there someone named Ahmed Samir who wrote it? Oh, peace. When words are in your mood, now you continue to acknowledge the words of the sheikhs. Unbelieve them, Dr. Khaled answered him, saying to him, "Hajj Ahmed, for my sake, stay in the issue of the stock exchange that was blowing fire on our master Abraham, the monkeys on which they committed adultery, and the rat who was of Jewish origin." George wrote, and Al-Azhar Sheikh comes out saying, and this will come out denying, where is the authority? I think it is time for Al-Azhar to play its role without fear of destroying religion, because religion. Is there anyone else actively resonating with the Egyptians whom he wrote for? Our dilemma, Doctor, is that we have intertwined religion into all aspects, which regrettably has rendered many Egyptians devout. It just means praying all the duties in his life. Absurd, absurd. This is Dr. Khaled Montaser publishing the news frankly in a kind gesture. The director of Beni Suef University Hospitals honors an employee for memorizing the entire Quran. This is the publication of Dr. Khaled Montaser. This fatwa rules for seeking refuge with bones and roses. And the hadith number 12 advises against using dung or bones as refuge, as it has increased the spirits among the jinn. Narrated by Tirmidhi and women, corrected by Albanian. The reason for the obituary is to seek help with dung because it is unclean, and because it is the food of the double jinn, and as for the reason that he declares salvation with bones, because it is the food of Muslims from the jinn. Dr. Khaled wrote, "Guys, do you have why are the Russians breeding and the bones are plotted, I mean? Leave the Russians to blame and bones to the jinn, because this is their staple food. And the bone is especially this. For Muslim grandfathers, they will die of hunger. They will leave them as they are, otherwise I will file a report against you to the Benevolent Society and in the comments." The publication of this post is hot. This is the topic of seeking refuge with roses and bones. This turned out to be a very big issue that puzzled scholars, and the 12 pictures were taken from YouTube. Saleh Al-Wawzat, what caused us is about seeking refuge. In Adaba or Al-Azam, Osman Al-Kami's forbidding purification with bones and dung, Abdul Hayy Yusuf forbidding recourse with bones and dung, also facilitating jurisprudence, and the reason for forbidding procreation, greatness, and Rosa, Tuib's fatwas and the ruling on procreation with greatness, and Rosa, the enjoyable explanation, and also the books of scholars held. International. And they presented scientific papers on the use and colonization of Russians and bones. The debate remains intense, and further proof from YouTube indicates that bone colonization is detrimental to jinn. The Al-Asimists are in favor of ruling colonization with Russians and bones, and the reason for that sunnah is the ship of salvation, prohibiting seeking refuge with bones, and wisdom in that. And what is the ruling on seeking refuge? With the return of Sheikh Sulaiman Al-Alwan and others, the entire heritage will be taken from the desert environment in which it grew up. It is natural that you find things that are strange and even unacceptable to the life of civilized societies now, because they simply expressed a certain environment at certain times and were not valid for every place and time, and that was stated. Dr. Khaled is also considered victorious. This is what she did to us as female contestants in medical advertising programs. I found it hard to believe that a doctor who claims to be a devout defender of miracles could do this. Despite being a sworn protector of his patients' lives, I remained skeptical until I verified the details through reports, x-rays, WhatsApp correspondence, and more. Regrettably, a shameful case was presented today to the prosecution in that case, which will be the course of media talk in the coming days. This remained for details, and what was presented before the prosecution said the following and ruled it in the end. An Egyptian English patient who works in a large media company in London and has super prime class health insurance was lucky enough to fall into the clutches of media deception while on vacation in Egypt, so he turned to a screen doctor. Paid programs that buy air and are told you need it. To strings and supports, and unfortunately the procedure is left by the famous doctor father to his son, and the support triumphs, and the solution that they found protected them from scandal falls into place, especially since the patient was on the verge of death and did not understand what happened, is to perform an operation. A montage of the lines on the CD the patient receives. To exclude from him the issue of the compartment prop, or the one that did not inflate, or the foreign body whose existence the English doctors later discovered, and they knew its truth after a march of radiation, and the English doctors who did not believe that a doctor who did not live on this planet decided to do that. They decided on an open heart surgery and a pay bus for the strange object, artery, and almost took the patient's life. Because the patient did not consult him in England, he is undergoing the DIT operation in Egypt, meaning they wrote him off from health insurance, and through him the surgery in England remained at his own expense, which cost £1,000. The question is for the Minister of Health or the medical syndicate: how will we promote medical tourism in the future? How will the Egyptian patient choose his doctor impartially and honestly, away from advertising propaganda? Who protects the Egyptian patient? And the 12 photos and this video, this is the lawyer of the Egyptian patient who holds English citizenship, who accuses a famous doctor of medical error. On the other hand, Dr. Khaled Montaser published some of what Egyptians are interested in. Al-Azhar Ibrahim Amin, who allows his wife to take off. Wedding night veil is not trusted on display. Is it permissible to have mercy on Hassan Nasrallah? Is he a martyr? Dr. Mahmoud al-Masri, the masterpieces of Sheikh Mahmoud al-Masri. Is it permissible to have mercy on Hassan Nasrallah? Vanabila wrote medicine to him, and what did he come up with? Is it permissible or not? Is there anyone else who wrote to her that he eases the burden of Christians a little? Muhammad wrote a medical farce. Who? The global level, and whoever does not buy is watching, and the blessing is in mixing medicine and science with artificial intelligence with the absence of conscience. Nahid wrote that the patient is supposed to not accept giving up the case, no matter the amount. The television screens are hammered for everyone who comes and says anything. Dr. Khaled responded to her and told her that the pressure will remain a lot on him. He is delivering the doctor, meaning he appears on many screens. Mervat wrote that my uncle died in the same way at the Heart Institute. His right was lost, and his daughters were orphaned because of this recklessness. Don't be upset with me. I am reading doctors and all my experiences, and the family is bad, and I am a hermaphrodite, and the mother of orphans, and I am in my 30s because of this ignorance, and among the most senior doctors who drained our savings, and God bless them, most of them are just brothers. He wrote, unfortunately, Dr. Khaled, as long as there is no legal responsibility, the doctor must do whatever he wants. This means that if this happens in Canada, the doctor will lose his license to practice the profession and will be fined a huge fine for the benefit of the patient. Dr. Khaled responded to him and said to him, "Here and on the air, normal doctor, very normal." On the other hand, Dr. Khaled Montaser wrote that nothing can be compared to October 6th and other events that have been uploaded and mobilized social media since the beginning of October, with unjust and unfair comparisons between the Egyptian October 6th, in which we achieved victory over the Israeli army, which was described as the army that does not approve, among other dates or different days. Another was in the month of October, in which events occurred against Israel as well, but they were in areas other than Egypt, Sinai, and the Canal cities. I do not want to repeat and increase the extent of the importance of Egypt. October is military, strategic, psychological, and political, but I refer you to a foreign film that is not our production. It is a skin film that you watched fairly and impartially. Listen to him and see what the enemies said. About us, what did they describe? October War? So that you know the value and impact of that war? Comparison between October 6th and other Octobers? They are clearly tweeting to minimize our triumph and sow a sense of fashion, defeat, and disappointment by amplifying other events that they portray to us as greater glories. And bigger than the 6th of October, I simply say no comparison. Prepper. Various October 6th is not an adventure, nor is my throat attempt with missiles that injure 3 and land in the desert. Preparations for the Egyptian October War included writing volumes of what we thought were strategic reserves of food, medicine, and so on. And we executed a deception plan at the highest level, sending a message to the enemy that we, in the midst of military relaxation, we are not considering war. The Egyptian war is not a sectarian or religious war, although some wanted to paint it that way. Our war as Egyptians was a national war in which the Muslim participated alongside the Christian. There were Al-Kamsi and Al-Shazli, Wasal and Kamal Hassan Ali Muslims, and there was Bakizaki and Fawad Aziz Ghali. Shafiq meter your chests of Christians in Egyptian October when the leader felt the balance of power had been distorted and that American weapons had begun to reach the Israeli army in large numbers. He requested an end to the war and a ceasefire, and negotiations began. Military war does not mean suicide, and a war whose result will not be building a country and bringing a homeland into the hands of its people after it stops and ends. the weapon was not allowed to enter. Beta doesn't solve his case. He holds it in a kamikaze. The suicide bombers in Japan, in an interwar attack, did not achieve victory for their country, but the hideous defeat and shameful surrender of their sacred emperor. The emperor's declaration was wise and saved Japanese lives. So they don't meet Hiroshima's fate. For me as an Egyptian, the 6th of October can only be compared to the 6th of October, a victory that I will remain proud of until I die. This was Dr. Khaled Montaser's article in Al-Watan. In Hossam al-Zarqani, he responded to him and said to him, "Long live Dr. Khaled Lina, and I was waiting for your opinion and article on this matter. I said this cannot be exceeded. I say 10/7/2023 AD, a crushing defeat. And with what? Profited from conflict, the radical Islamic movement and the radical Jewish pilot, only to flip more. And more ruin. Yahya Sadat is a hero of peace." The war also rode Dr. Khaled Montaser, the Salafist dirt barrier, in order to meet the needs of houses, reason, logic, enlightenment, and secularism. Muhammad Mahmud published this picture and wrote that even if he wrote it, this is not a dirt barrier. This is asphalt, doctor. Not only does it need it, this needs a nuclear bomb to blow it up. Tariq Khaled wrote with it, "Our great doctor. Salafi thought is now in our country. Like reinforced cement, it needs to be destroyed and blown up, not just bulldozed and leveled, and you won't work with it. Any attempts, whatever we do, right, our role is required so that the reinforced cement does not increase in thickness, but the solution must come from the top down and not the other way around, and it must be a will within the state. So, otherwise we will continue to spin within the same circle." Nora wrote, "I think the first one needs to be blown up and forced, like Tunisia and Saudi Arabia, and then the way opens for the Enlightenment. Our people continue to a point where non-compulsory things are not useful. Enlightenment will be for the younger generations who are still inhaling Egypt. Rather, it needs a strong economy and a skilled surgeon who specializes in removing cancerous tumors spread throughout the body of the state." Let's go back to the story that I told you about in the first place, a story that explains. The redemption story involves a king, a Sunni, and a minister. "Christian, call once. Do I want you to show me and convince me of the theme of redemption that Christians believe in?" The minister thought, and secretly agreed with the nanny of the king's infant child to take a walk by the swimming pool in the king's palace, helped his presence with the king by the pool, and you dragged her baby carriage. It's like the baby is in the car. Then she pretended that she tripped, and the Arabs overturned from her inside the swimming pool. So she did as the minister ordered her, and watched the cart overturn in the water. The king quickly took off the king's clothes and rushed running, and poured into the pool to save his son, and became enraged when he didn't find his son in the water, but the minister would start taking care of him. "Why didn't you order me or the nanny to go save your son?" He said, "This is my son, and only I can save him. This is what happened with God. We are his children and loved ones. To save us from death, he took off the king's robes and humbled himself to save us. You and me to save. We must accept this free salvation." And this is a verse in the Gospel of John the Third Reformation. "Because God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life, and that the name of the Lord may be glorified." If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to receive all the news. Share your comments with us, and thank you to our fans and followers. Thank you.